I'm just going to wait for a few people to join first and then. Okay, I'm just going to get started with a brief explanation of what I'm doing today. So we've worked with a version of a delta section initially. A delta section's characteristics are it starts narrow and ends up wide. The reason I'm using this is one, it allows me to use a practical use of disconnecting what is quite a strong crown on Jess's hair. Also, I start just above the occipital bone on the parietal bone. We go straight across the parietal ridge to the frontal bone. What is significant about this method is it allows me to isolate below and above the roundness of the head. And working with shapes, square, circle or triangle, the benefits and characteristics are very different when working above or below the roundness of the head. I look at a delta section as a very sort of like a figure hugging sectioning pattern. What we've done here at the front, you can see Jess has a very short micro fringe, and it sort of distributes itself very slightly across. So what I've done here is I've formed a sort of very slight four diagonal section, which we're going to take off fairly short. I've allowed for this section here to also be cut quite short, but I'm going to have it brought with a distribution of short to long, so that a little bit of length can move over the short micro fringe. What I'm going to do, I'm going to pass you over to Ryan. He's going to continue filming us and I'm going to explain. If you have any questions, please feel free to shout them out, type them down, and Ryan will shout them out to me and I will help. So one thing I'd always say is one of the most important tools you'll have is a water spray. I always think you've got to keep the level of moisture quite equal throughout the hair. You need to be consistent with your approach to this haircut. The head positioning is key. I often move the head to make it easier for me to get a neat section. And initially I'm just going to focus on my roots, get them all down nice and neat, straight vertical section. I leave one finger placed to secure the hair whilst the other starts to groom and comb the hair out of the way. Using the back of my hand to keep the hair where I want it, then I'm going to go across and section. What we have to be very mindful of at this point of the haircut is the scalp tension. If we were to lift Jess's hair really firmly here and apply a lot of tension, as you release you can see it actually distorts very slightly the scalp. This will have a bit of a say really on the characteristic of our shape and our line, and I would advise that we really consider that around the hairline and the nape is where the skin is probably at its loosest. So if we were to start to apply a lot of tension on this section, just to take the demonstration away, if I was to apply a lot of tension here, you would be moving the skin around the scalp. So I'm going to do the same on the other side. I've got one side done, so now both hands are kind of free. Broom the hair in the direction you're going to comb. It makes the comb a lot easier to travel through the hair. Make sure both sides are equal. Doesn't matter if you have to go over it. Don't be too hard on yourself on that level. Just make sure you've got balance and you are consistent. So we're about ready to begin now. I believe wherever you want the most control, I've been taught you would start the haircut. So we're going to start internally. We want the most control of this haircut to be our internal graduated shape. So we're going to be starting vertical triangle. Just groom the hair. Remember the back of the comb, when you go in, the back of the comb is also a great way of controlling the hair. Okay? It helps to keep the hair flat to the scalp and make it very clear and very obvious the section you'll be working with. So if we just do that again, it keeps everything looking quite nice and neat for me to work. This is our first section. So with this, you might be better on working more or less straight on. So if you want to go almost so that the camera is like that. So what we're going to do is to show you our vertical triangular shape. We want equal tension, okay? We are only going to cut to our second knuckle, sorry. So we start out like so, and then I stop, because the tension will change between this section of my fingers and this section will not be consistent. The tension is only applied once my distribution or cut line is where I want it to be. So let's just reassess. So you see the tension at the moment is very low. The tension is only applied when I know exactly where my distribution is going to be set. Now the head's going to be length slightly down. Now if the head was down too far at first and we work triangular, the triangular section will come out here somewhere, which meant that my section here would have been really long. Sometimes, if your graduation is too low, the haircut doesn't really resemble a graduated bob. It almost looks like a one-length bob with graduation. So be very careful of the actual amount of angle in your first section. So if the head shape is lent down, you'll get a much lower angle. If it's up, you'll get a much higher. We're going to now start with pivoting our section. Do you want to come on this side? Thank you. So as I just asked Ryan, bless Ryan helping me today, as I just explained, sort of want to explain this next section. So now we are working from vertical, working off a triangular shape, we're working on a diagonal section, still working triangle. The characteristics of the triangular shape are that the length is decreasing towards the external shape. Now why do we pivot? What is the key benefit to pivoting our section? Why would we pivot? We pivot to shift the control from vertical to horizontal. We do that seamlessly. So by shifting control, we are going to be ending up with the full control over that beautiful graduated shape. We start at vertical to give ourselves the guide of how high we wanted our graduation to be, or how low we wanted it to be. By pivoting, we shift the control of this onto what we see from our eyesight. Also, move the client's head slightly. You'll notice that I've just moved my model Jess's hair over very slightly. This is because it's going to aid me in being more comfortable for me when I come to cut this next section. So we're going straight through. See the back of the comb to flatten the heads, keeps everything very clean and very obvious. Now what are the key kinetics? Kinetics are our movements, our energy, what we're going to be using to get this shape. It isn't the other direction anymore, because the other direction, we're not over directing, we're pulling the hair straight down from base. But it's actually the elevation, how high or how low we choose to have this section is going to form the characteristics of our horizontal shape. If we're working vertically, for an example, it would be the other direction. That would be one of the key kinetics to our horizontal shape. But by shifting our sectioning, as we are by pivoting, we are actually using the elevation more than we are the other direction. So you'll see now, I'm going to come round just over my shoulder slightly now. The section now is much, much more working on the horizontal section, opposed to the vertical shape. As we bring our last section in, bearing in mind, guys, that if you apply too much tension, if I was going to apply a lot of tension here, and I release the tension, the section moves. I would always put my comb in and use my comb for the control. And then I would slowly bring the section in. Once I see my distribution is aligned, I would apply the tension. And always cut backwards. Draw your scissors backwards when you cut through. So if we can just go into the section envelope, you can quite clearly see that my line is working like so. We started off vertical. Once again, to confirm, the vertical section gives us how high, the control over how high we're going to start this. We pivot to get more control over what this is doing. Tiny bit of cross check. I would always just have a little cross check of my work. I think sometimes you can have a tendency to drop the elevation a little bit too low, and your cross check will really help you with that. The reason I like doing a live is I think you get to see me edit my own work. You get to see me go over and check my own work. You get to see it as if it was on a salon floor. So you can probably use this. So you can think, oh, hang on a minute. If the elevation made it too heavy, I've got to notice that through the cross check. And then through the cross checking, you are able. I wouldn't cut the hair, guys, when you are cross checking. I would actually revisit my section. You might better go on this other side actually, if that's okay. So again, what I'm just instructing Ryan to do is come over this side so you can quite clearly see when we move across. Again, let's just say I put loads of tension. Let's say I put absolutely loads of tension from the root there. Look at how the skin is moving. And when I let go of it, it pulls back. We can't have that. How's it looking, Ryan? Any comments come through? Any questions come through yet?
I don't think we've got any comments yet. It's got a lot of love.
Oh, that's all we can really ask for, isn't it? So you see, let's just review our elevation, because we've said we're not over-directing here or there for this shape. Typical graduated shapes, a lot of people who have trained have said that they start vertical, they agree with me on that. Then they over-direct section 1 to 2, section 3 to 1, section 4 to 1. We don't do that here. What we're doing is, it's the elevation, guys, that is really key here, not the over-direction. We're pivoting, which is why we're not having to over-direct. See the characteristic there of that line? We're sort of decreasing, triangular. And when we just push the hair very slightly, you can kind of see that shape is already encouraging the hair. Because what are the key benefits to having a triangular section or triangular shape? So the triangular shape allows for us to direct length and weight into certain key areas. So in this circumstance, we started out directing the length and weight vertically. Now, by pivoting the section, we are shifting the control of that shape to being able to distribute and push the length out. So now the length is going longer here. So can you see that, Ryan, as that line just follows there? So we started out, guys, full control over this, which was our triangular shape. We pivoted without using over directions, just using elevation to form the graduated shape. And then our triangular shape starts shorter, ironically, to longer. So that is a very simple basis of how we start our graduated bowl. Now what we're going to do...
We've got, just before we go, we've got a question. Yeah. It says, do you typically like to use cutting lotion with the haircut, with this haircut?
Cutting lotion, if I'm honest with you, I don't really like cutting lotions. I prefer to have everything practically naked with what I'm doing, so I can see the haircut with any imperfections really. Because what a cutting lotion has done for me is enables me to keep the section super clean and super neat, which is absolutely fine, the whole section. But realistically, as long as there's the right level of moisture in the hair, you should be fine. And sometimes I found the cutting lotion has made the hair a bit heavier than it is naturally. So my concern would be, if I was to refine my perimeter or to cut my shape on natural fall, the weight of the product is distorting what's actually going to happen naturally. Okay, by a small margin, but again, BB education is all about perfecting of the small. Okay. So when I look at it, I prefer to see the hair in its total natural state. All I have prepped with a tiny bit is, I do love the Davines volume spray, so this is something that gives me a little bit of dexterity with the hair when it comes to style. It's not a weighted product. So I'm just going to take a section, roughly about an inch in size, straight across, guys, exact same thing again. Try not to use clips if I can help it, but it is a good question, so thank you for asking that question, because people do ask that quite a lot, do I use the cutting lotion? As I say, I don't like anything that's going to distort the hair as natural fall, so I probably wouldn't use one. So, right, if we can go with the exact same, again, that's great, thank you. So I'm going to be starting now, exactly the same, guys, as we did at the very start. We start central vertical, okay? And from central vertical, we are working triangle, but this time we have a guide. We have our guide from the previous sections we've cut. So we go in with our comb, just like so, pull it out. You can see my section. There's my triangular line. Let's discuss what would happen if we kept the elevation straight and did this. We're starting to work fairly short internally, okay? What I do is I actually overdirect the section down and I work off the elevation almost at a 45-degree angle. Initially, we did not do that. Do you remember? We started out 90 degree, but look, the lines becomes fluid. So as we pull this section straight out, I bring this section and I'll bring the section down to it. And you can see I have a couple of millimeters there still to come away. Now we continue our pivoting action. Do you mind coming on to my left shoulder? So you see my section now has gone from vertical to slight forward diagonal. And you'll kind of see where we're going with this. Like that line should flow consistently. That, guys, is exactly how I choose my guideline. You can see the precision aspects of the haircut. I'll be honest with you, a lot of what I've learned, just go to me for a second, a lot of what I've learned is 95% from other people. I think that our industry, especially social media, it's very instant. And I follow some amazing hairdressers on Instagram, and you know, ultimately I follow them and see their work and I learn from them. I would say the first step with you taking your journey towards becoming better is the attitude and accept responsibility that it is for you to do it yourself. You've got to take those steps, take those time, and I guess really accept responsibility for yourself and your own life. So I haven't been on any courses. I subscribe to certain sites and watch hairdressers work live, like 3 Education, Alion, Seiko, you know, all these amazing places. They offer all this fundamental knowledge, working vertical triangle, working horizontal, doing all these things. So all of this has come from watching other people. This tip, that for me, this is one of the biggest things I ever really learned. And it was all for free off social media, was when you cut backwards. So I'm just going to demonstrate that again now. As we go through, we go backwards. And that's because we don't move the hair in front. And it enables us to really get a real precise cut. You'll notice, guys, that we are still pivoting round. That section's a little bit too thick, so again, this is why I like doing it live. I like to see if there's anything that I've done that I don't think was correct, and I'm going to tell you exactly, because I want you to get the most out of this. As we lift the section up, see, now let's look at the elevation here. If we were to pull that elevation down really low, we're really limiting that lovely curve. So we've got to have some elevation here still, guys. You've got to be lifting this out. Don't be afraid of it. Don't be afraid of some hairs hitting the floor at the moment. This is below the occipital bone. Okay, the occipital bone, the parietal ridge. Anything around the parietal ridge should be over-directed down to itself. See, look at that. If you applied high tension here, the roots, look how the roots want to grow anti-clockwise. If we were to apply high tension there, as Jess's haircut fell and we dried it, that would jump up and go across. Let it do what it wants to do and work and refine it. And when the hair's wet, you're going to form balance, you're going to form shape. Don't try to perfect and refine your work when the hair's wet. Get it obviously balanced to make sure it's clean, but the things that are a few millimeters, I would say when the hair's dry, you get a very clear representation of what is needed. You'll notice that now, if I drop low here, you'll notice that this is becoming now the main shape. You see this? So as I pull this down, my elevation is starting to lower. Why? Look at the hairline. The hairline is decreasing. Here, the hairline was very strong, so we had a higher elevation. Here, the shape, the triangular shape, is also getting lower. So if we had a higher elevation here, we'd be thinning out the triangular shape. You can even also work this if there's a very strong natural fall. You can work it through your comb. We're going to go through our fingers still. But if you notice, the hair starts to dry off a little bit, so equal moisture. So we go in. And listen, that a beautiful thing to see. Lower the tension. And we go backwards, and we go backwards, and we go backwards. And as if, there we go. So now I've got that beautiful shape coming through. It's one of the most beautiful things in hairdressing, I think, that shape. So I'm going to get Ryan swap sides with me again. He's going to come around my right shoulder. And I'm going to repeat this action. How's it looking, Ryan?
Yeah, it's looking great.
Anyone interested? We've got one person viewing this.
No, we've got 17.
No, we've got a few.
We're racking it up.
We're in double figures at least, that's fine.
Got a lot of waves, hellos, highs.
I'll make sure. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for watching the Red Hot Day. So you see, there we go again. That angle is fluid. But to achieve that, guys, we've had to change the elevation from 90 degree to 45 degree. I think what I find is when I watch a live video sometimes, I tend to dip in and dip out of it a little bit. You know, it's on for a long time. So watch the change in my elevation here. Elevation was fairly high there, okay? As we come down here, because my triangular shape, remember, is pushing itself longer. If I maintain that same elevation, we're going to thin out the section. And lower the tension here, guys, not too much high tension. Try to gauge in your own mind what a maximum tension is to you. Let's say a 10. Try to have a 10 in your mind. Maximum tension. And let's say 0 is natural fall, not even a comb in the hair. Okay. And then look at it as when you're cutting internally here, I'd say try and gauge on a 6 and in places a 3. Okay. So when we're working vertical, we kind of need a lot of control. That's what we use the comb for. When we come to the next section, we're obviously starting now to get above the occipital bone. Now this section is going to give us the biggest guideline for the sides. One question someone asked me a while ago, actually, it's a really good question, is could you do this in fewer sections? Could you do this in 2? I guess you could, but I think that leaves a lot of room for you to lose your guideline, for you to lose your elevation, for you to perhaps change the shape accidentally halfway through by not having your body positioning working square to your section, which is really quite important. I think it's important to work square because you can see your other direction more. So you can probably go from that side now if you want and just film low on. So again, here we go. Don't rush it, like me there. Don't rush. Take your time getting this section right. This is what's going to give you the guide for the whole thing. Let's go in, right through. And what I'll do is I normally will bring my fingers round to hold the scissor, but I'm not going to so you guys can see. So let's retake it. Go right through, yeah? And there's my nice line. There's my nice angle. And that's my graduation. When that falls, that graduation builds the section out from the head. And we pivot our section again. So now we've established our vertical control, but look at the root area here. It wants to grow in different ways. Underneath that, it's growing anti-clockwise, and above it, it's growing clockwise. So as I bring my section down, I'm not applying lots of tension with my hands. I only apply my tension once I have my distribution or cut line set. So you see, as I pivot now, I get a guideline almost underneath as well from the side. Fairly high with the elevation at the moment. Again, low tension, about 3 there. Don't be tempted to suddenly change the consistency of how thick you've taken the sections. Remain consistent and remain patient. This now, the shift, pivoting from vertical, is now allowing us to have full control over this shape, and that's the direction of the length at the front. So we have some elevation here, because there's a lot of hair underneath it.
You've got some comments from some courses coming up in Ireland. There's one on July the 9th. They're really looking forward to it.
Yeah, I cannot wait for that. It's we've got some great stuff planned for that. I'm doing 2 models for that day. I'll be doing a morning demonstration of 2 haircuts, a short haircut and a long haircut. So you kind of get a lot from that, hopefully. And again, it'll be very similar. I'll be explaining, but if you look at that, I'll let Ryan just go a bit closer to that so you can see the shape is nice and neat. The outline, guys, through here, we refine when the hair's dry. Don't try to do it when the hair's wet, because I've done it before loads of times. It's great for a video for Instagram, but when you dry it, it needs loads of refining. Okay, it needs loads. So I would let everything fall natural, cut everything however gravity pulls the hair. Cut all your line on that. When the hair's dry, you will look to perfect it, refine it, which we'll go into. For me, I think our client's hair should look neat and precise, irrelevant of who dries it. So when we dry it, the mirror in front of us isn't the mirror to judge your haircut on, it's the mirror when the client gets home. Because if we followed all of these procedures, it should, no matter who dries it, look balanced, precise.
We've also got a comment from someone saying, love how small your sections is when cutting. Don't see that much anymore.
If your section is quite large, like if I took a really large section, you've almost got over direction on that section immediately. So you've got to establish, we're working diagonal here, okay? So you've got to establish, okay, we have kind of equal control over our vertical and horizontal shape. But let's say we're working vertical. We may have a triangular vertical section, and we may have a square horizontal section. So the over direction is a key point to the shape horizontally. Okay. So what we have to look at is if our section is taken really, really thick, you're almost over directing it. It's very hard to remain consistent throughout. Your sections will be the same size throughout the whole haircut. So you're very consistent in your approach to your shape. In terms of the moisture, everything. Like when you wrap dry the hair, you have to get all the roots at neutral. But yeah, thank you. No, it's as I say, the guys from Johnny and Pedro, Alion, Ben and James at 3 Education, Joshua Monica at Menspire, they're people that I find their work incredibly inspiring. Richard Ashcroft from Seiko, Paul Stafford from Stafford's, I could list all day, Tom Connell from Trevor Sorbet, all these people, but I say the majority of what I get, I got from somebody else. I would say there's probably very little about what I do that is original. I would say a lot of what I do is heavily inspired by other people. So I don't think that's a bad thing either. I think that the whole idea is BB education is about perfecting small. It's about getting full control over the foundations and basic principles and shapes within hairdressing, so that you not only understand my end result, but you put this shoulder here. You also understand the processes, like my reasons, like why am I using hardly any tension here? Why did my elevation drop? I want you to understand my decisions, not just my end result. You understood when he lowered his tension because the hair is growing up off the scalp there. It's not going down, it's not sitting seamlessly. If I apply too high tension here and cut it, when it dries, what Jess will find is this almost looks slightly layered. It'll almost be like an internal graduation. Now, I think it's more about what you learn than the end result. I think it's more about the way I teach you opposed to the end result. So like one of the things we say when I teach an education day is, it's not what you learn, it's how you learn it. And what I mean is, the haircut is almost irrelevant, I think. I think it is the processes you should learn. You should be in control of your haircut. You should be confident when you cut. And I said this recently, but it's true. I think that creativity isn't something you can train within somebody. I believe creativity comes when you're really confident in what you're doing. And knowledge is what's going to give you that confidence. Really understanding your stuff is where your confidence will come from. So if you look at that and think, okay, I don't like doing short hair, why? I'm not very confident in it, I'm worried. So if you get all the knowledge and confidence within that haircut, you become innovative. With your sectioning, you become innovative with your choice of elevation, your kinetics, your other direction, your tension, your cut line, and you start to amalgamate and form your own shapes. But that doesn't come, you don't train that, you train confidence first, and the creativity comes from being able to innovate with your clients.
You've also got someone saying you're a great educator. This is helpful information presented well.
Oh,
please do more of this live demonstration, IG demonstration.
Well, thank you very much indeed. That's very kind. And we will be doing, as I say, we're going to be posting a lot on our BBTV, which is on YouTube, Ben Brown Hair, BB Education UK. And what we'll do there is all free, and you'll be able to go on and look at things. I'm doing everything live because I kind of want you to see me react to things. Like the idea of me explaining about the elevation and the tension here, I didn't plan to tell you that, but I explained it because you could see it was needed. And I kind of want to show you when things aren't going well in a haircut, how I would combat them and how I work with them, because we're all going to have those things that are going to happen. Now with this section, you can kind of see, it might be better from that profile actually, you can kind of see here, look, we're getting lower now. We're actually still working at exactly the same angle, but as we go up and over the head, we're getting a lot of weight build up in the haircut. And that is absolutely fine, guys. We want that precision, we want that angle. If there's nothing to come off, guess what? Don't cut anything off. Don't keep looking for things to cut off. Remember, Jess here has had a previous haircut, a lot of previous haircuts by me, and we've always gone quite strong with her hair. Jess has always been used as a demo model for me. We've always done it when we've been hired to go to somebody's salon, and we'd bring Jess with us, and essentially we would do the haircut. So there's a hidden panel in here somewhere as well. And so what I'm going to do, you might want to come this side of it, sir. As we come through this section now, keep everything lovely and clean and neat. Don't start losing it now. Stay nice and strong with these sections. Don't suddenly become inconsistent with something. You've got to stay really strong. We're still going to be pivoting this section. We're not going to maintain this diagonal section. We're going to be pivoting to work parallel or perpendicular to our actual section. That's fine. So what we're going to do, elevation too low, massive heavy line, probably needs a lot of texturizing. So we're going to be lifting the section reasonably high. Never cutting past that second knuckle. As I explained, it's not consistent in its tension. As I get to here, I do lower my elevation to be almost a finger's depth elevation. Now let's just let Ryan come around and review that. So when you see that comb down now, you can start to see that nice balanced line coming through. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop down, because you probably use a cutting stool a lot in the salon, and just assess my line. Now if you look here, you can see that hair growth pattern there is growing anti-clockwise. So I'm going to still use the fine side of my comb, but I'm going to apply less tension. Okay? Make these assessments and judgments throughout your haircut. You're in control of your kinetics. You're in control of what you're doing, okay? You need to be accepting that responsibility. Now when we come down here, and if we look just behind here, the hair is going upwards. Just through here, the hair is going anti-clockwise, lifting the hair away from the scalp. So what I'm going to do is here, I'm going to work with a very small amount of tension, and I'm going to work just through my comb. I'm going to tap at the root, I'm going to tap to lower the elevation, and I'm going to cut. And if you have a quick look at that, we've got a nice, neat section. I would advise that you don't run off and finish that side. I would advise that you go and build up each side and check the balance. So now you can see these areas here are the same, okay, the sections, just off our radial section. Hardly any tension again, really using the comb for control. As we come down here, we can get to eye level. And I'll go down nice and low. Now, let me just show you that again, because I put my scissors in and to keep the hair in the comb. As I go down, my comb is going downwards for most control. When I get down, I actually bring it more horizontal, which loosens the tension. If we turn that down really flat, just so you can see the line, there's a nice neat line. Obviously we're not going to wear it like that, but it's good to see we're getting the weight build up in the correct places. Equal moisture again, guys. Once I've done both sides, we're going to pause. I'm going to blow dry the underneath. And we're going to get the hair dry and come back to you once the hair's dried, so I can get a drink. And it's quite hot in this where we are today. Now this section will pivot right across the front. Like so. Now what the idea here is that I'm now going to form that line, all that length. So we start from where we did it the first place. Okay? Low tension. Just a comb for control. A little bit of elevation. Then I come down to eye level, and I'm bringing the section through my comb. And I'm going to tap just above the ear. When I do a lot of demos and I'm cutting a precision haircut, I think a lot of people are surprised that it doesn't look very clinical when you're actually cutting. What I would say is that I cut everything with natural form. Now, if I get Ryan to come and just do a little assessment of that, you can kind of see that line, even though the ear is there. Let me just put a bit of light on it so you can see. You can kind of see that line is really neat and really balanced, and you can see from a distance that the line is fluid. Now, when you're checking a line, or checking your external shape, you will check it from three ways: underneath, above, and from a distance. I want you to imagine that you're hanging a picture. You want to check if the picture is straight. So you wouldn't just hang it and look at it from the perspective you're at and make an assessment on if it's level. You would take a step back, or you would ask someone else to move. Is that straight from where you are? So do the same with your line. You use a mirror, look through the mirror, make an assessment, okay? But that's what you're smiling about. You said something.
You and your picture. You don't just hang a picture up, you just ask someone, don't you?
I would just say, I probably wouldn't hang a picture myself. If I wanted to stay up on the wall, I wouldn't be hanging it.
You got some more comments. People saying love watching your work. You create such beautiful hair. It's very inspiring.
That's very inspiring. So thank you very much. So again, we're combing over. Remember the comb. Look how the comb suddenly changed. And don't keep looking for things to cut off. This is one of the things I find when I'm teaching people. Just because there's a small amount of hair off, it doesn't mean that you should take more away. Concentrate the roots. Look away and think like the roots aren't all combed down. Comb them down. Allow the moisture, the weight of the moisture to be the only control we're going to use. One bit of advice would be as well, I would very, very slightly tilt the head, allowing the gravity just to pull the hair slightly on a bend. As I go down, I'm going to make a little assessment. Tap, tap, tap. Okay, so there we go. That's how, we're just going to finish the other side off. If you look at even how that sits with a slight bend, the line is still perfect to our client. No matter how your client or my client or our clients wear their hair, they should still get the same result. We should still have balance and precision. So what makes this haircut good? It's not the stylist, it is actually the knowledge. It's the knowledge that makes it. The difference between one hairdresser and another hairdresser, I don't believe is often talent. I believe it's the knowledge and the confidence and the amount of hours they put into perfecting and developing their skill. I've worked with many hairdressers that were very, very talented. And that was where it was kind of natural to them, really. But I would say that your skill is only developed through hours and hours of beating on your craft. And I think a lot of people don't want to spend that time. They give up, it's hard, or I don't like it, I don't like doing short hair. But if you fight for your limitations, you just get to keep them. So I would always make that little improvement of yourself if you can, even if it's just an understanding of something. I mean, I never started learning how to cut hair like this until I was 31. I'm now 38. So I was very much a hairdresser in a salon. That was literally just there to do client after client after client after client, and then I think something wakes up in you and you're realising that this isn't really what I wanted to do, this isn't really what makes me happy. You know, and what makes me happy is learning and improving on myself. One of the main reasons I go to work is to better myself, because I believe I define myself as a hairdresser, and I believe the way I cut hair would say that about me. Always look to improve. And as we just finish off our last section on this side, we're going to say goodbye for 15 minutes. Do come back. Do come back, and we're going to show you, after I've wrap dried Jessica's hair, only here, because I'm holding your head a little too tightly, aren't I? Just because the crown, we're not connecting in technically, it's a visual connection based upon the reasons that the crown is very strong, and we want to let the crown sit so there's a visual connection, so that line sits in here, not suddenly sticking up and waving, and it'll almost look layered. We want it to be very strong and very sharp with all the hidden panels and the micro fringe.